Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Wistrcill.
I'm JT Wistrcill.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of From the Couch. It's NFL Week 16 summary coming up here. Another exciting week in the NFL. And with 1 week to go, still lots of playoff scenarios, which we might get to some of those here as we go through our discussion. But as we usually do, 5 takeaways from each of us. We'll start with my friend JT here. So number one, what do you got?
Yeah, the Vikings almost ruined my Christmas. I love Christmas enough where they were not able to, but their season officially ended versus the Saints 52-23. The 52 points let up were the most the Vikings have given up since 1963 when they gave up 56 to the Arizona Cardinals. Mike Zimmer said it's the worst defense he's ever had, and he is undoubtedly right. Kind of last week I went into all their weaknesses and deficiencies, and they were on full display, especially that run defense. But do got to give credit to Alvin Kamara. He had a spectacular day. So did that offensive line. I mean, Kamara had 155 yards on 22 carries and 6 touchdowns. He should have had the NFL record, but Sean Payton pulled him. We were going back and forth on if they took him out or not. It was kind of interesting, that whole thing, if they knew he got the record or not. But it just sucks for my Vikings. It's just disappointing, especially when you look at the game. They actually turned the Saints over twice. So the last time a team created 2+ turnovers and had 0 on offense and allowed over 42 points was 1951. So it's just such an irregular game. Vikings season officially ends, but they're not that far off, I still think. Just need to get some guys healthy, draft well, continue to develop. But props to the Saints for putting in work in the run game.
Yeah. Vikings are done.
Yes.
They really struggled at times on defense, but they also have some problems that on the offensive line that they need to fix.
Yes.
So we won't blame it all on the defense. But so I'm going to talk about my Steelers, as you would expect. It was a tale of two halves. I was about ready to give up at halftime and turn it off, but I was like, no, let's see what happens here in the third quarter. And it continued to initially not be good in the third quarter. And then all of a sudden the season flipped on one play. Essentially what happened, we had, again, Steelers, 1st and goal on the 1-yard line. Don't score. Go for the 4th down. Don't get it. Luckily, hold the Colts. They have to punt, so the Steelers get great field position. First play, touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson. Now, of course, all the media types are saying that they went from Randy Fichtner calling the plays to Ben calling all his own plays in the second half. I don't know if all of that's true or not. If it is, then Randy should have his for sale sign up because that means he's gone and Ben's just going to call his own plays from there. But nonetheless, they revived what hopefully is a potential playoff run. Outscored the Colts 14-0 in the fourth quarter, and Ben looked like the old Ben. The defense did enough. And still can't run the ball, but we're not going to worry about that anymore. So, nonetheless, the still have a chance at the 2 spot if the Bills lose, but chances are it'll be a number 3 spot for the Steelers heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you looked like you were going to lose 4 in a row. It was a tale of 2 halves, kind of like the Steelers season. The second half looking like the team you did the first half of the year, and the first half looking like the team you had last few weeks, but great win. It was really disappointing for the Colts to blow a lead like that against a good team, and now they need help to get into the postseason, where if they hold on to that, they're in the driver's seat, just win out and you're in. So disappointed for the Colts, but great for your Steelers to stop that skid.
Yeah, we needed it badly. So, all right, JT, number 2, what do you got?
I'm going to talk about another team that had a good start to the season. Not as good as Pittsburgh, but how about the Chicago Bears? Yes, they're in a good place now, but if you look at how their season unfolded, it's kind of strange. So let's go over it. They started 5-1, beating the Buccaneers, and they actually benched Trubisky during their winning streak, and Foles came in halftime in that Atlanta game, and they made a nice comeback versus Atlanta. But then what happened? They lost 6 in a row and ended up going back to Trubisky. So it looks like their season spiraled out of control. Earlier in the year, I'm sure you guys remember, everyone was calling them the worst 5-1 team ever. Looked to be the case, but then things have turned around now, and they've won 3 in a row. They're averaging over 36 points per game in their last 3 wins versus only 21 points per game during that 5-1 stretch earlier in the year. So what changed with the offense? Well, number one, Trubisky is still better overall than Foles. Foles is better in the bigger moments, it seems like, but you still like Trubisky better. And most importantly, Matt Nagy is started to call plays that help Mitch Trubisky and not just his offense. He's conforming and making his offense more quarterback friendly. Because of that, getting under center, the running game's improved. We've seen seeing David Montgomery play a lot better. And we know how nasty that defense is, which is what led to them being in the driver's seat for a playoff spot now. If they win in Green Bay, which will be tough because the Packers are playing for the 1 seed, they'll be in the playoffs. So really impressed by their turnaround and the turnabout of one player in particular on defense, Roquan Smith. In his 3rd season, 136 tackles, 17 tackles for loss. His best season by far as a pro, and looks every bit the top 10 pick he was out of Georgia. So props to the Bears.
Yeah, they're making a quite a run. And ironically, you mentioned them, and I'm going to talk about the Packers.
Yeah.
Again, who roll on in the Snow Bowl up in Green Bay. It's funny. It's kind of like if you go play for the Packers, it doesn't matter. You just love playing in the snow and cold. I mean, Aaron Rodgers grew up in a suburb of Fresno, played at Cal, and all shows up in Green Bay, and now the snow's his friend. But it's kind of like this body armor that they have. Just kind of like we're tough. We're the Packers. Bring on the bad weather, and they continue to roll. Beat the Titans pretty bad, 40-14. So now they go to Chicago, and it's essentially a playoff game, right? I mean, the Packers are playing for the number 1 seed. If they win, they get it. The Bears, if they lose, might be out of the playoffs. So it is quite a week turning up here for the Packers Bears game. Just so impressed with Aaron Rodgers. Can't say enough about him. I think he's at 44 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions this year. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing with essentially one great wide receiver, a second guy who's decent, and then a bunch of guys I can't even name, and neither could you.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it is. But nonetheless, when your quarterback is playing at that elite of a level, and he's one of the best ever, you're going to have a shot. So look forward to seeing that game on Sunday. That'll be a good one.
Yeah, I think it'd be great, too, if Rodgers could make another statement. I think the MVP is so neck and neck right now between him and Mahomes. Even Josh Allen's trying to creep in late and make it interesting. It's going to be really fun to see how the season winds down. And like you said, they're fun to watch right now, the Packers, especially in the snow football.
I disagree with what he said. Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. It's over. It's done. The others don't compare. So
we shall see.
All right, next, JT, what do you got?
The Jacksonville Jaguars have officially won the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And their tank was awesome, honestly. They were close in a bunch of games, and then they still ended up losing. They actually started the season with a win against the Colts, funnily enough, the team they'll play this week, which they already have the number 1 pick locked up, so they can even try to win now. But it's a great job by them. It worked out really well, and they are probably going to fire Doug Marrone. I think that's the right call. But I'd keep Jay Gruden, their offensive coordinator. He had some success as the head coach of the Washington football team, and he's done a pretty good job calling plays down there. And Trevor is not walking into an offense that's devoid of talent. Laviska Shenault and DJ Chark are a nice wide receiver pair on the outside. We've also seen Jerome Robinson, an FCS player, really emerge this year as an undrafted free agent. It's a solid offensive line in need of a left tackle. If you look at the defensive side, too, really like the front seven, invested heavily in the defensive line through the draft. Linebacking core is full of veterans, and they got the shutdown corner in CJ Henderson. So this is not some Jet situation where you look all over and there's multiple holes. There's a few holes on this Jags roster, but there's a world where if Trevor is unbelievable next year, there's a slim chance they could even make the playoffs, I think. That's how I still think this roster is pretty good, not that far off, but they should fire Doug Marrone.
Yeah, you're probably right. And good for them. Good for Trevor. It's a good spot to be. And hopefully they can surround him with some pieces. And, the Jets, as we talked about before, continually step on themselves. So
yes, they do.
I'm going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit, JT. I won't say they're stumbling into the playoffs because to me they're clearly the favorite. So what I can't tell is if they have some issues or they're just bored. In some ways they might be bored. Like it's almost like too easy. Because I look back at their recent weeks here, it's been 7 weeks since they actually beat someone handily. They beat the Jets 35-9 back on November 1st.
Yeah.
But since then, 2-point win, 4-point win, 3-point win, 6-point win, 4-point win, 3-point win, 3-point win. Yeah. Basically coming down to the last possessions to win or hold on. And, I still think they're the best team in football right now, simply because if you give them 8 to 10 drives during a game, they're going to score 75% of the time. And I don't know if anybody else in the NFL can do that.
Yeah.
So they have an average defense in my estimation, the Chiefs do. But their offense is so explosive, as we've seen in last year's playoffs, that like I said, I just can't tell. Maybe there's something wrong with them. I don't want to say that they're going to all of a sudden get upset in the playoffs, but, the playoffs are different. And if the weather or something is a problem, and I just don't know. I guess, like I said, my instincts tell me they're just bored with the regular season, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I think, like you said, some of those have been close games, disappointing. But at least the last week, I mean, yes, the offense didn't play as well against Atlanta. How about the defense holding the team under 20 finally? That hasn't really happened much this year, so that's an encouraging sign. I still like the Chiefs, but I mean, if they do fumble in the playoffs and mess around and lose to a team like the Bills or even the Steelers somehow, I think we can point back to their regular season lack of closing teams out as a reason that happened.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. All right, what do you got next, JT?
The Seahawks are once again Super Bowl contenders because of the improvements on defense. And it's been the same roster. They didn't make any big trades or signings, but they got better inside. Guys got better, particularly Jamal Adams. Staying with that team for the full season, learning the full playbook, getting back healthy. He looks every bit the guy they traded 2 first-round picks for, flying all over the field. I thought this last game against the Rams, he had one of his best games in coverage, and we know what a threat he is. He's the best pass rusher, too. He's incredible. I still would trade 2 first-round picks for a guy who can do that many things and is clearly the best safety in the NFL in my estimations. Next to him, you also have Quandre Diggs, who made the Pro Bowl as well. So you got a Pro Bowl tandem of safeties. Their corners had a nice game against the Rams, and overall, this defense this year has just improved as the season's gone on. Earlier in the year, their first 8 games, they led up over 25 points to 7 teams. So it's like, oh man, they can't stop a nosebleed. But their next 7 games, they only gave up 25 once. And over their last 3 games, yes, they haven't played some great offenses, but they've only given up 27 combined points to those 3 teams. So this defense has gotten better. They're physical up front. Linebackers are nice as well, and we know what this offense can do. So I'm really encouraged what I'm seeing out of the Seattle defense right now, and because of that, I think they can win a Super Bowl again.
Wow, that's a big statement there. I don't think a Super Bowl's in their future, but I guess we'll find out.
Keep letting Russ cook.
So we'll see. So I'm going to talk about the AFC playoff picture, and there's 5 teams with 10 wins. Only 4 of them are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So somebody's going to be on their way out. I don't know the way it shakes out right now. In my mind, as I look at the schedule this week, I think it might be the Dolphins, the one that are on their outs, because Buffalo wants that number 2 seed. So I think they're gonna really throw everything at it to win this week and to secure that number 2 seed, so that they can get 2 home playoff games. And Miami plays Buffalo this week. So to me, that's the odd one out. But I mean, I'll tell you what, all that means is the AFC has great teams near the top. We're talking about what if they all win? That could be an 11-win team that doesn't make the playoffs. Crazy to think that could happen. But a lot of credit. I don't know how the AFC North is going to shake out, because obviously the Browns play the Steelers. I don't know how the Steelers are going to sit players or not. The Ravens need to win to get in. I mean, we've just got a number of scenarios there with the Colts as well and Titans. There's just so many teams fighting for those 4 spots. All are in interesting spots this weekend. We'll wait to see how it sorts out.
Yeah, and the one thing you talked about with we're going to get the Mason Rudolph Myles Garrett rematch this weekend, so that'll be interesting to watch for that game and just to see. Yeah, I thought the Bills already locked up the 2 seed. Is that not true?
No, if they lose and the Steelers win, then the Steelers get
really?
the 2 seed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Mason Rudolph pulled off that upset, knocking the Browns out of the playoffs and securing the team the number 2 seed if the Bills were to falter against the Dolphins. That'd be quite the amazing day for Mason Rudolph, the highlight of his NFL career, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So, a lot to happen this weekend. Very exciting. So, all right, last point.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about some of what he talked about. I feel like I am still so unsure of so many teams at this point in the NFL season. You start to get a good idea, you think, for these NFL teams, but then usually this time of year you do, but not this season. 2020 has been a weird year. This NFL season has been no exception to that. So first, the Colts. Yes, they blew that lead versus the Steelers, but they've looked really good in a lot of games. But also, Phillip Rivers is their quarterback. So I question if he can get it done in the postseason. He's had success in the regular season, but they've dropped some games they shouldn't have so far this year, especially like going back to even week 1 against Jacksonville. You should have never lost the Jaguars team. And because of that, they're now fighting for a playoff spot. So shot themselves in the foot a lot. We'll see how that works. The Titans, I mean, could they play in the snow? That's a big question I have about them now. Because what if they have to go to Buffalo and we're getting a snowstorm? Or it could be cold in Pittsburgh even for a game. So I'm concerned about them as well. And if they can't run the ball, what kind of Tannehill am I going to get? Another interesting team. The Steelers, 11-0, then drop 3 in a row. Great second half that allows them to beat the Colts. Which Steelers team am I getting? Also curious about that. And then the Browns. The Jets game, I have no idea what that was. I know you're missing 3 receivers, but it doesn't matter. This is the worst team in the NFL. I guess the Jaguars are now lately, but it just feels right to call the Jets the worst team in the NFL because it felt like they were trying to lose. So all of these teams, I just don't know who they are. Oh, and I forgot the one team in the NFC, the Rams, who once again lost again, and with no Jared Goff. I'm just really interested to see how these teams work out in the postseason because I really don't know. I try to get a feel for them, and I feel like I can't. 16 games in.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild weekend, as we talked about.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. So my last point was we had a couple of people come out the last few days with some strong messages about being a professional football player, right? TJ Watt called out his team, basically.
JJ?
I'm sorry, JJ.
Yeah.
Sorry, JJ Watt, yep. I got my Steelers thinking cap on. JJ Watt called out his team, right, about being a pro and showing up every day. And then Booger called out Haskins, but was essentially speaking to all new players coming into the NFL. I don't think it was a racial comment he was essentially making, even though he was talking about, he mentioned African Americans. I think he was talking about all the new players coming in the NFL who are all about their brand and their public image and that, and not about being a pro, which is what Watt was talking about. Show up, do your job, take it seriously, take every day seriously. It's a great privilege. And so it was really interesting to see that people, they use their platform and their clout to do that. Both were all pro players, have had, Booger had a good career. Watt obviously has had a great career with 3 Player of the Years. So it was really interesting to see at this time of the year for them to come out publicly, and basically, call out all the new players and their teammates to step up and be men and take this seriously, the opportunity they have to play football. And they, Watt talked about, the millions of dollars that they get paid and all this, and Booger talked about it as well. So it was really an interesting message. Hopefully those types of players were listening and will take it more serious. It's too bad you have to have something like the Haskins scenario or something like that brought attention to it.
Yeah, I talked about last week how disappointed I was in Dwayne Haskins. I think a lot of people have as well who saw, and everyone says he's a good guy, but just doesn't seem to be able to figure out that off-the-field stuff. The JJ thing was so cool to watch. I mean, it just articulates what every fan feels, too, while watching their team play. I don't think any real fans want their team to tank and be that bad. We cheer for them every single week in, week out. That's why this coming Sunday I'll still be wearing all my Vikings stuff, even in a meaningless game against Detroit, which I still kind of want us to win, especially if we can get Justin Jefferson the Rookie of the Year. And if you're a Texans fan also, I think there were some rumors about J.J. Watt getting traded. Not anymore after that rant. So I think it was very well said by Watt and Booger as well. It's still a team game, and a lot of guys, we've seen at the college level too, guys opt out of their bowl games, which is a smart business decision for them, but sometimes they take it too far in the NFL and only care about themselves, it seems like, in the ultimate team game. So I thought it was a great point made by those guys and you for highlighting it as well.
Yeah, very exciting. So, all right, well, there was Week 16. We're going to be back next week for a Week 17 and review and a preview of the playoffs and that. So are you getting ready for playoffs?
Oh, absolutely. Love playoff football. We get the wild card weekend and divisional weekend are the best 2 weekends of the year, in my opinion. And with so many playoff spots still not secure, like you said, next week will be tons of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's great. So, well, good. Well, we hope you enjoyed us here on another edition of From the Couch. We'll see you next time.